Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Arlandastad once again, and this is actually my third visit to this brewery if I'm not mistaken. They're a specialist organic brewery and this is one of their new beers that they released in February of 2016. So we're going to go to Sigtuna Brygghus once again, and this is their organic double IPA, and the ratings I've seen for this on Rate Beer so far have been very positive, but it doesn't actually have an official rating yet because it is very new. But I've never tried an organic double IPA. I've tried organic stouts, Scotch ales, Hellas beers from Germany and a few other things, but never a double IPA, so I'm very interested to see how this beer turns out, and generally Sigtuna do produce some really quite nice beer, so this one I'm sure will be another good effort from these guys, so we'll see how we get on with it. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Sigtuna Brygghus reviews. There will be more added in the near future, and there's all the usual social media, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd. Please get in touch with me through those. It would be great to hear from you guys, and if you do want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel, and I will apologise in advance for any bad Swedish pronunciations in this video. I'm still getting used to Swedish since I moved here to Lund, and the pronunciation of course is probably the hardest aspect of the language. But anyway, to tell you about Sigtuna Brygghus, so this brewery was founded in 2005 by Peter Force, and he was joined in the early stages of development by David Meadows and also Håkan Lundgren. The brewery is located in Arlandastad, which is actually very close to the Arlanda airport, Stockholm's main airport, and I think the biggest one in Sweden. But these guys brewed their first batch of beer in 2006, and in the early days they were only producing around 600 gallons of beer per week, and initially they did want to brew mainly historical recipes, but more recently they have been brewing more modern styles of beer like American IPAs, stouts and things like this. They've got a Russian Imperial stout if I remember correctly, but they produce some very nice stuff, and as I say, they are a specialist organic brewery. But for the first few years the three were happy kind of hobby brewing, but their beers proved to be very popular, so they decided to sort of turn fully professional if you like, and they upscaled their brewery and hired more staff in 2009, and in 2013 they surpassed the 1 million litres of beer brewed mark, and they now have 12 employees and are producing 3,000 litres per brew actually, and this means that they can brew over 1 million litres of beer per year, and the brewing team is 4 men strong, and they're expanding further to meet planned exports for their beer, which I think start this year. They're planning to export to America and further afield through Europe. But their brewery is also well known as being home of the St. Erik's Brewery, which is run by Jessica Heydrich, and these guys have been a guest brewery there since 2010, and Mohawk Brewing, who are quite a well known Swedish gypsy brewer, also brew in Sigtuna Brygghus, and I think Sigtuna Brygghus were helped by the parent company of St. Erik's, Galatea, investing a lot in the capacity of the brewery, but they produce some really nice stuff, and they've got a very good relationship with St. Erik's Brewery as well. So that's enough about the history of the brewery. Just to list the beers you can get from these guys. In the year-round range, there's the East River Lager, the Organic Ale, East Coast Pale Ale, the Weizen, and they also have an IPA 4-pack as well. I do believe they have some darker stout beers as well, but they've got their seasonal beers too: Christmas Lager, Winter Organic IPA, Midwinter Bloat, and they do have some summer and spring beers as well if I'm not mistaken. There's a few other special limited edition beers that they do too, so do keep an eye on their website and their Facebook and things like that. As I said, links are in the description below, and you can see the latest goings on at Sigtuna Brygghus. So let's get cracking with my third review from these guys. So this one is an 8% double IPA. As I mentioned to you, it is organic. It has American, German, New Zealand, and I think also Swedish hops in it as well, so you are getting a truly Swedish product with this one, and it's got Pilsner and caramel in it, and like I said, it is an organic beer. It's best before the 23rd of October 2016. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. I shall just bring up the camera and let you see that. I need to tilt it of course so the light doesn't reflect off it, but you can see there is the nice artwork on this one. A lot of the Sigtuna artwork is very similar. They like this kind of golden bronze colour for their labelling. You can see there's the cloud on the bottle cap there, which is the standard. You can see Organic Double IPA on the side there, and there's the organic marker for the European Union on the back too, so it should be a very nice one. We're only in it for the beer, it says. True handcrafted brew. Check out the brewing team, sigtunabrygghus.sa. Sharky, where are you? So I guess it's Sharky the Cloud. So yeah, it should be a very nice beer. As I say, 8% double IPA, American, German, Swedish and New Zealand hops in this guy. So let's crack it open. Yeah, so I need to retrieve the bottle cap a little bit later, but as you can see, it's got a nice smoky opening on it, this one. You can actually smell the nice caramel and fruity aspects of this one as you open it up. It looks really good actually. Just take care with the pour. But you can see that's a very, very good pour, that beer. A nice finger and a half of a creamy coloured head on this one. It's almost actually kind of beigey coloured head when you look at it. So, as you can see, this beer is poured a really nice, rich, dark kind of amber colour, I would say. It's probably good to describe it as kind of dark, almost blood orange amber colour. There's a finger and a half, nearly 2 fingers, of a frothy, kind of beigey, biscuity coloured head. It looks very nice. There is a degree of transparency to this beer, but as you can see on the camera, it is very opaque in colour. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. There is a good bit of sediment visible in the bottom of this one, and it was like that when I brought it home from Sigtuna Brygghus as well. And that tends to happen a bit more with organic beers too. You do get a bit more sediment in these ones, in my experience, but without even paying too much attention to the aroma of this one, you can get some really nice, quite juicy tropical fruit flavours from this, or aromas I should say. If you sniff it a bit more closely, you can definitely pick up some peaches. There's a bit of grapefruit and maybe some mangoes or apricot in there. The nose that you're getting just from letting it settle is definitely a more tropical fruit nose. So let's sugar it up a bit and see how we get on. Yeah, it starts to become a bit more dark when you sugar it up a little bit. You start to get more of the biscuity and rich caramel malts. There's a definite bready element to this beer as well, and that's typical of organic beers, again, in my experience. But there's some nice biscuity malts in there, some sweet caramel, and also some big bready aspects as well. That's a really, really quite nice aroma there. There's a bit of citrusy orange too, but like I said, it does seem to lean more towards the sort of tropical fruit nose, that very sweet, juicy tropical nose in there. There's a nice light grassy hop to it as well, but there's a bit of floral aromatic character. But as I say, it does lean really towards that quite sweet tropical fruit. Mangoes, peaches, and a bit of passion fruit maybe. But it's more of a juicy tropical fruit than those kind of oily passion fruits or grapefruity notes that you get. But yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and smell your beer before you get stuck into it. You can get some really interesting things. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this guy then. This is the organic double IPA from Sigtuna Brygghus in Arlandastad in Sweden. Skål! That's quite an interesting one, that is. But it has, you notice when you have a few Sigtuna beers, they do have a very kind of distinct mouthfeel to them, and they're kind of repeating that a bit with this, but it's quite unusual because it is a lot more boozy, if that makes sense. The Sigtuna beers do have a bit of a, I would describe it as a sort of chalky mouthfeel. There's a good bit of mineral character in there, and they're very smooth on the malt base. And the hops come across as really quite oily. It's quite an interesting mouthfeel, but it really is a trademark of Sigtuna Brygghus. And whether that's because the beers are strictly organic, I'm not sure, but I have found that generally organic beers do have a very kind of specific and quite distinctive mouthfeel. But as I always say, sugar the beer around your palate and just let your whole mouth adjust to this one. But this has some really nice malty characteristics too. You can feel the sweet caramel just building in the flavour of this beer. The hops are very well blended too. So in the middle of the palate on this one, your tongue is just kind of blanketed with a nice bready blanket. It just goes right across the middle of the tongue, and you can feel the rich caramel just building up in there. There is a bit of a kind of grainy, biscuity character to this one, almost like digestive biscuits that we get back home in Scotland. But you can feel that flavour just building up there, and you've got some of the really darker, rich caramel, maybe just slightly toasted but more oily. You just feel that building in the middle of the tongue. But the malt aspect of this beer works very, very nicely. The hoppy flavours are a bit darker and a bit oily, but just pay attention to the middle of your palate, and you'll get these nice boozy malty characteristics opening up. For 8% as well, it's not too high in the alcohol warmth. I'm only getting a tiny little bit down here from this beer. Yeah, that's quite nice actually. The caramel, you'll notice the caramel does come across as a little bit dark. But in the back corners of the palate there's a very small bit of earthiness. That's the German noble hops coming out, and I do wonder if the Swedish hops contribute that, a little bit of that somewhat as well. But you've got the more floral and aromatic aspects coming out around the front of the palate. Of course, you'll get a little bit of that from the German noble hops, but more likely the American West Coast hops are giving you the sort of piney and aromatic floral characters that are coming out around the front part of the palate. There's some smoother grassiness around the very front curve of the tongue, but otherwise it's quite floral and aromatic, and there is a sort of piney kind of underpinning to this beer as well. There's quite a good blend of flavour in this one actually, and it blends together very nicely, this beer. That's one of the things you'll notice about it. The fruity characteristics are really quite interesting as well. They're very dark actually, and they're quite oily. The nose is interesting because it comes across as a sort of quite juicy, mangoes, peaches and things like that. But the actual fruit flavours you're getting from this beer are quite dark and quite oily, so just pay attention to that when you try this beer. But you'll feel that little oily bubble behind the very front curve of your tongue, and there's a very dark grapefruity and quite dark citrus flavour in there. It's a good blend of an orangey citrus and quite an oily grapefruit or passion fruit flavour in there. Mainly grapefruit, I would say, because it does have that slightly dark, almost sour characteristic, but I have to admit I'm getting almost none of the kind of more juicy tropical fruits that I was picking up in the aroma. If anything, there's perhaps just a little bit of a slightly peachy flavour, but I'm not picking up the mangoes or anything like that I was getting from the aroma with this beer. Yeah, the citrus and the orange flavour does build up a little bit as the palate adjusts. You start to get more of an orangey citrus character in this beer, and it is very, very nice. So the other thing that's interesting about this too, you do have this distinctive organic flavour. There's a good bit of mineral flavour in the beer for this one, and that's usually, it does have this slightly chalky mouthfeel, like I say, that is a trademark of organic beers. But for this beer, and in terms of the flavours they've put in it, it does work really well, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this beer again. It's really nicely done. I would like to try it on cask so that you get a bit more sweetness from the caramel, because the caramel is a little bit dark. But overall, the flavours in this beer go together very well. The darker caramel, in fact, does mix quite well with that slightly more oily citrus and oily grapefruit flavour that you get from this beer. So if you get the chance to try this one, I would recommend that you check it out. It's a nice blend of flavours, this beer, and Sigtuna Brygghus produce some really good stuff. So if you want good organic beer, then this is where you need to go. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say mid-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth, and that tends to be the thing with organic beers as well. It's got quite a big oily mouthfeel. That helps the darker caramel and also some aspects of the fruit flavour too. But at the same time, from these piney and floral aromatic characters that you get in the hops in this one, you do have a good bit of dryness there. As I said, the piney resins and things are just underpinning this beer, and you can feel that dryness around the edge of the palate too. There's quite a chalky mouthfeel to this one, like I was saying. It feels that there's a lot of minerals in the water. That's quite common in Sweden, but you'll see what I mean when you try some of the Sigtuna beers. They do have that quite distinctive organic beer mouthfeel, and it's actually quite nice. I do quite enjoy it. Some people don't, but I personally do quite enjoy it, and in this case, with the flavours you get from this beer, it really does help. But there's a little bit of a juicy fruity character, but as I said, it's quite dark, as is the malt base in this one, but the flavours go together very, very well. So overall, I'd say Sigtuna have done a very good job of bringing the double IPA into the organic style, or into the organic category, I guess. I think, if I remember correctly, they've produced quite a few of these double IPAs, but this is a very new one that they released in 2016, so I'll need to see if I can get a hold of some of the older versions of this beer, because it would be really interesting to try them. But if you do like organic beer and you're in Sweden, Sigtuna is the place to go. And if you enjoy double IPAs, especially ones that are a bit darker and more oily in the fruity and caramel flavours, you will definitely enjoy this one. So overall, it's a very good beer, and I have to admit, I would love to try it on tap and just see how it comes across that way. So do go and check out this beer for yourself, and let me know in the comments section below if you have tried it before. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are trying the beers with me. But I thank you once again for watching my beer reviews. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please consider subscribing to the channel, and like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and check out my social media, but most importantly, go and check out Sigtuna Brygghus from Arlandastad here in Sweden. So thank you once again for watching, and I will catch you soon. We will return to Sigtuna Brygghus in the very near future, and up next you will have another beer from Colorado in America. So I shall catch you soon with that review. Go and check out Sigtuna Brygghus. The double IPA is very nice. Check out this brewery if you enjoy good organic beer. Slàinte just now, and I will catch you soon. Cheers.